He found an alien child in the desert and took him home. Then his mother came with an army. He found an alien child in the desert and took him home. Then his mother came with an army. The sun was setting over the barren desert, stretching for miles in every direction. The heat of the day still lingered in the air, though the breeze now carried a chill. Liam wiped the sweat from his forehead as he trudged through the sand, his boots sinking into the shifting ground with each step. The wind had picked up, making the desert seem endless, and he could barely see through the haze of dust. He had been walking for hours, but the radio crackled to life again, reminding him he wasn't alone. Liam had been sent out on a simple recon mission by his commander. It wasn't supposed to be anything complicated, just a simple check of the outskirts of the mining area. But something felt off. The desert had a way of messing with man's mind, and the strange signals he kept receiving over his radio were enough to make him uneasy. He paused for a moment to take a sip of water from his canteen. He wasn't expecting anything unusual, just some lonely stretches of sand and rock. But then he saw it. Something small and out of place, a streak of movement against the orange horizon. At first, he thought it was a mirage. But as he drew closer, his heart skipped a beat. It was a child, a small alien child, lying in the sand barely moving. The creature's greenish skin shimmered under the fading sunlight, and its large black eyes stared up at Liam with a mix of confusion and pain. The child looked malnourished, its thin body barely clothed in rags that looked like they had been worn for ages. The alien child wasn't much bigger than a human toddler, and it was clearly in distress. Liam crouched down slowly, careful not to startle the little being. He could hear its labored breathing, and its pulse was weak. This wasn't just some stray animal. This was a life. Someone's child. "Hey there," Liam said gently, his voice soft despite the adrenaline pulsing in his veins. "It's okay. I'm here to help." He carefully scooped the child into his arms, wincing at the alien warmth of its body. The child shivered weakly, but didn't cry out. Liam couldn't tell if the child was even conscious, but he had to get it back to safety. He knew this desert, knew the risks of leaving anything out here too long. There were predators and storms that could swallow a person whole. He looked around, and after a moment of hesitation, began the long walk back toward his small base camp. Hours later, Liam arrived back at his tent, the child still limp in his arms. He was tired, his legs aching from the trek. But he couldn't stop. He laid the child down carefully on his cot and began assessing the situation. The child's skin was still warm, and its breathing was shallow. He worked quickly, knowing that the more time passed, the less chance there was of help. He administered some basic first aid as best as he could, cleaning the child's wounds and wrapping it in a blanket. His mind was racing. Where had this child come from? What kind of being was this? He had only heard stories about alien species, most of them myths. But this was real. A soft whimper broke his thoughts. The child was awake. Liam leaned forward. Hey, you're all right," he said, trying to calm the little one, even though he wasn't sure it could understand him. "You're safe now." The child blinked up at him with those enormous black eyes, and for a moment, Liam thought it might try to speak. Instead, it reached out a tiny hand, touching his face. The touch was warm, but it felt almost like an electric shock. Liam stiffened, not out of fear, but from the sheer intensity of the connection. The child seemed to feel it too, its hand trembling as it looked at him in wonder. Liam's heart softened. This was no ordinary being. There was something ancient about those eyes, something that suggested this child wasn't just lost. It had been sent here for a reason. He sat down next to the cot, watching the child carefully. As he did, his thoughts returned to the strange radio signals and the unsettling feeling he'd had earlier. He had been sent to do a routine job. But now there was no going back. The next morning, Liam's mind was still spinning. He had contacted his commander, reporting what he'd found, but he knew that would only bring more questions. He couldn't risk moving the child. If there were enemies out there, he would be easy prey. But the longer the child remained in his care, the more Liam felt like he was making a mistake. That was when he first heard it. The unmistakable sound of engines. Low and rumbling, distant at first, but growing closer with every passing second. Liam's eyes snapped toward the horizon. His heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know who was coming, but it was clear that it wasn't a good thing. His first thought was to hide the child, to get out of sight, but he couldn't just leave alone. He had no idea who or what was coming after them. Then the ground shook. A massive shadow loomed over the camp as a large ship descended from the sky. It was unlike anything Liam had ever seen. Sleek and black, with strange symbols etched into its surface. The ship hovered above the camp for a moment before landing with a heavy thud. The doors hissed open, and a group of armored beings stepped out. They were tall and imposing. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural intensity. The air around them seemed to crackle with power. And at the front of the group stood a woman, her presence commanding and terrifying. She was beautiful, but there was no warmth in her eyes. She looked like a queen, a ruler who had come to reclaim what was hers. Liam's blood ran cold as she stepped forward, her gaze locking onto him. "Where's my child?" she demanded, her voice sharp and demanding. Liam's throat went dry, and he stood frozen. He knew that voice. He had never heard it before, but it struck him to his core. This was the mother of the alien child, and she had come with an army.